Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Goodness Engine, where I make doing your good deed for the day easier than ever by pledging to donate all the money generated by this channel. So just by watching, you've already done your good deed. I appreciate it. Earlier this morning, I had a conversation with Michelle. She is a certified public accountant and a professor of accounting, and also my mommy. And she's teaching the good kids of Western Massachusetts about how they can better understand their own personal finances. So she's going to answer some questions for us today. It was a really fantastic and enlightening conversation. So let's get into it. Hey Ma, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you jumping on the channel with us. Can you tell us a little bit about your background as it relates to, finance and financial literacy?
Sure. I went to college thinking I was going to be a bookkeeper. My mom was a bookkeeper for my dad's construction business. And I thought that's what I was going to do. At the time, I was a single mom and I needed to earn an income, and it seemed like a great way to do it. And I met a college professor that was like, "No, you're going to come be a CPA." And I was like, "I don't even know what that is." I did all the things he told me to do in college. And when I graduated, I worked towards my certification as a public accountant, a CPA, and got a job at KPMG Pete Marwick, where I earned that degree. I was there for about 5 years, about 5 years, and had gotten remarried and started my family again, and didn't want to be on the road as much as CPAs were on the road. So I took a chance and went to Cigna Insurance Company as part of their leadership development program for accountants. I was there for about 11 years, and a friend called and said, "There's a CFO position right in your backyard. What do you think about going private?" And I wasn't sure, but I hadn't interviewed in a long time. So I took the chance and was lucky enough to land a CFO position in Agawam. And I was there for probably another 11 years. My career sort of spans in 11s, I guess. When I left corporate, I left just because I had burnout. It was a lot of hours, a lot of time, and I just sort of had corporate burnout, and was blessed enough to land a position as a college professor. So I could take everything I loved about my career, like the finance knowledge, the sharing that knowledge, the coaching and the mentoring, and I could start teaching it to students. And I've now spent about 11 years doing that. So I was a college professor.
Soon to retire?
Soon to retire. 1 year left.
That's awesome. I didn't realize the FPI CFO position you had was a referral. That's new.
Yeah, that came from a friend that was like, "What do you think?" And when I went on the interview, I met CEO at the time, Tom, and just loved how human he was as a manager, and had a chance to help him grow the company. So it was really fun. But yeah, that was a referral from a friend that was in the leadership development program at Cigna with me.
Oh, nice. All right. So clearly you have a ton of knowledge as it relates to finance and how businesses should operate, but obviously you also have a passion for encouraging people, teaching young people. So I thought it would be awesome to have you on and answer some questions that might be helpful to anybody viewing the video. So if we can, I'll just jump right into it.
Yeah,
First question I wanted to ask. So there are several different numbers that are reported depending on the sources you look at, but according to the Federal Reserve, about 34% of Americans are currently living paycheck to paycheck, and about 54% say that they're uncomfortable with the level of emergency savings they have. So can you walk us through what emergency savings should look like, and talk about some general strategies to start saving if your income is kind of close to your expenses?
sure. So I think it's really hard for people to even wrap their mind around emergency savings when they're just starting out, particularly. But the whole point of it is to make sure that you don't end up in debt early in life, right? So the whole point of it is we're responsible for our own financial well-being. If you stay on top of what you make and make sure that you're spending less than what you make, from a lifestyle standpoint, you're going to be okay in life, right? Like that's the advice to start with. But stuff happens. Like even if you do everything right, stuff happens. So for a young person who has a car, perhaps they need new tires, or perhaps something on the car breaks down. And if they're living paycheck to paycheck, they're not able to afford that, and suddenly they find that they have to borrow money, or they don't maintain their car, and so then it costs them even more to fix it later on. So the goal of emergency savings is just to make sure you have enough to take care of that stuff you can't anticipate. Generally, when you start out in life, you should have around 3 months. And then when you start taking on more responsibility, like a home, or you have people depend upon you, like children, you should increase that up to 6 months. So throughout my life, my general rule was 6 months sitting in an emergency savings. How do you get there? You just spend less than you make. And if you're living a lifestyle where you can't do that, then you figure out how to make more, right? This whole discussion on finances has two sides to it. You make money and you spend money. That's as complicated as it needs to get. You make money and you spend money. If you spend more than you make, you're borrowing money and now you're in debt. And you'll never get out of that if you accumulate too much debt too soon. So you just have to make sure that you make money and spend less, so your net end is money set aside for savings. It doesn't have to be a lot, and people get overwhelmed by that. So even if it's just $5 at a time, what I say to my students, and what I had to do early in life as well, and then I had financial blips that happened along the way. It's the really think about the needs, wants, dreams kind of concept, right? So do you really need a cup of coffee from Dunkin' Donuts every day? And if all you did is took that $1.50 and put it in a jar until you had enough to bring it to the bank where you could earn interest, you're already ahead of the game. You can make a cup of coffee at home and bring it with you. So I think you have to think in terms of definitely spend less than you make, but in addition to that, what do you really need? You might need a cup of coffee, but you can do that in an economical way. Does that kind of hit on what you were asking?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a couple things you hit on there that were really salient points. The wants versus need, and you can tell that she's from New England because she said Dunkin' and not Starbucks. Wants versus need is a big one. I think what people don't realize a lot of times is that they're paying for convenience more than anything else. But there are ways, you mentioned economical ways to make a coffee, for instance. A bag of coffee grounds is somewhere between like $2 and $7, depending, and you're going to get 30 cups of coffee out of that as opposed to the one at Dunkin'. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity, I think, that people might not see, but it's worth talking to somebody with a little bit of knowledge and experience as to kind of how you can cut those things back. Another thing that you touched on was kind of just savings versus expenses, and I'm wondering, I recently learned about some like high yield savings accounts. So growing up, I always had my money in a savings account, just a traditional, and I was making like 4 cents every month or something like that. So it was really nominal. I'm wondering if, and I apologize because I didn't prep you for this question, but I'm wondering if there's any other kind of ways, like a high yield savings account, where it's possible to make more money passively. Is there any like benefit to that versus any risk to using an account like that?
Yeah, so I want to come back to the high yield savings in a minute. One thing that when you said Dunkin' Donuts versus Starbucks triggered in my head was so many young people today are angry at corporate America that all the wealth is accumulated at the top. I want you to think about that every time you go out and buy a cup of coffee. You're contributing to it. Like people who are mad at the price of concert tickets, like we contribute, we vote with our money and our dollars. So the recommendation is to keep that in mind. Pay yourself first, right? Like don't give your money to the big corporations if you're mad. Pay yourself first by buying that local cup of coffee. So that triggered in my head when you just brought up the two competing corporations and why don't we have more choices and all that. Your high yield savings. So my experience, not that I'm a banker, I don't know all the details, but my experience is you have to have money to make money. So you need to start small, and you might have to start in a low interest rate type of savings account, but anytime you say interest and you're earning it, you are making money just for leaving your money sitting there. So your money's working for you. You don't have to go to work to make that money. Your money's working for you. So yes, put your money in a savings account. And then when you get with a high yield account, you usually have to lock up a certain dollar value. So let's say some that I've seen, you got to start with $1,000 or with $10,000, which seems like a lot when you're starting. But if you can get there and you can put your money into a high yield account, you'll earn interest faster, which is a fantastic thing to do. The thing to keep in mind is usually you have to lock your money in. So now you've got to have a short-term savings for emergency fund where you can get at that money if you need it. If an emergency happens, you just take your money out, no penalty. Nobody's telling you you have to leave it locked for any certain period of time. But if you want to earn higher, you might want to lock your money in for longer, or you might want to look at investing. The general rule of thumb, if you want to think about how long it takes to double your money, so you leave your money sitting there, you put $1 in, you do nothing. When you take that money out, you get $2. The general rule of thumb is to take the number 72 and divide it by the interest rate. So as an example, if you can earn 10% interest, it'll take you 7.2 years to double your money.
Okay.
So 72 divided by 10% is 7.2 years.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's really
Yeah, so if you take 72 divide, I did a couple on the side. So if 6% is more common right now, if you take your money and you leave it alone for 12 years, you will double your money. So if you have $1,000 and you can leave it alone for 12 years and you're earning 6% interest, you will double your money in 12 years. That 1,000 will turn to 2,000 and you don't have to put any more money in. So 72 divided by interest rate is the way you can figure out how fast you can double your money. So high interest accounts, that's what I'd consider. How long do I leave my money there until I can double it?
Right. And then you mentioned investing too. So that would be for a more long-term strategy.
Sure.
Right? Because my thought is always with investing versus savings in an account, even high yield, is investing is going to incur tax afterwards. So whatever money you make, the capital gains is going to be 25% of that. So a lot of young people get really excited by the idea of investing without really understanding the tax burden at the end of it. So if we're talking about emergency savings, short-term savings, would investment be a good strategy in your mind?
No, for emergency savings, you got to leave it liquid. I would always put it in an interest-bearing account, even if the interest rate is low, because you're earning something that you didn't have to go to work for. Your money's working for you. So I wouldn't leave it in my bedroom in a jar. I wouldn't do that. I would put it in a bank account someplace. And I'd make sure that bank account was earning interest. Not every bank account earns interest, and sometimes they have fees, so which takes away your interest. So you got to look at what you got going on. Just go talk to the bank and find out what you have for options. Okay. So no, emergency fund, keep it liquid. Don't invest that at all. And if you can find a high interest bearing account, go for it every time.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So something you touched on at the beginning of that answer as well was being in debt earlier in life. People have a lot of debt these days, medical debt, student debt. Can you talk to us a little bit about debt and what people mean when they say good debt versus bad debt?
Sure. So good debt is anything that is probably low interest and will help you get to a point where you can earn more in your future. So student loans are a great example of that. If you take on debt in order to make more money in the future, fantastic. If you take on debt in order to accommodate your lifestyle, but you can afford to pay it back, fantastic. That's a choice that you make. If you take on debt just because you feel like life isn't fair and you want more than what you earn, you're probably making some mistakes that are going to cost you your dreams in the future, right? So there's a concept of like delay your satisfaction, right? Don't always go for the short-term feel good. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of work. I recently saw you do a video of push-ups for an hour, right? Like that's not easy to do, but if you want to get in shape, you have to do the work. Money's the same thing. If you want to have your dreams of the future, you might have to give up a little bit right now to do it. So back to debt. Student loan debt is great. Make sure you make your payments on time.
Student loan debt in regards, like, you have to expect that the outcome of that debt is going to be more money made and help you be able to pay that debt off. I think a lot of people get into student loan debt that they have a hard time paying back because whatever job they get afterwards isn't lucrative enough to kind of warrant what they paid for the debt itself.
I love that clarification and I agree 100%, right? So, like, before you decide to go to school, don't go just because you don't have anything else to do. Don't go just because someone told you you have to go. Like, make
Hmm.
sure you have a career in mind. Taking on debt not to be able to make more money in the future does not make sense at all,
Hmm.
right? And the number of people so I'm a college professor, right? I see them in my classroom all the time. The number of students that are there just because someone told them they had to and they didn't know what else to do, um, and they're going to rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially in debt that they're never going to earn back. Doesn't make sense. So, personal example, I'm a CPA. I have my master's degree, and then I went to school. I went to college. Started working at a college.
Hmm.
So I had a choice to make. In the college system, the degree that's most prevalent is a PhD. People go to school to get a PhD. That's where you can make the most money, where you can get the most promotions. It's how college professors get the ultimate title of full professor.
Hmm.
And I was later in life when I got there, and I thought long and hard about, did I want to go get my PhD? That was the ticket to the game that I was entering. And that's what you need to think about when you're choosing to go to school or to take on any debt. What's the ticket to the game, and do I want to play this game?
Yeah.
For me, I looked at it and said, okay, the cost of a PhD is X dollars. I have this many years left to live. Will I get the payback on spending that money? It wasn't about if I had the money at that point. It was, will I get the payback? I made the decision not to get the PhD. My choice, which meant I also accepted in my choice that I wouldn't get all the promotions that those around me who chose to get the PhD might get. But
Hmm.
my choice. So back to debt. If it's going to help you get ahead, go for it. Make sure you can make your payments, right? So when you think about how to structure a budget generally, 50% should go to needs.
Hmm.
So housing, clothes, food. Remember, you don't have to buy your food out. You can buy it inside. You
Right.
don't have to buy all your clothes new. You can thrift shop, right? There's a way to manage that budget. So 30% of it should go to wants, and that might be where I put a college education. Can I pay for my college education and everything else I want with 30% of my income? And if I can, and I can see in the future that taking a loan out now will be something I can pay for in the future, go for it. And
Right.
then 20% for your goals, always save. Even if you're going to college, still put some money away to save. So good debt will help you get ahead. Bad debt usually has a high interest rate associated with it, or it's not related to a goal that you have. So some people who can't pay their bills every month will put it on a credit card, and the credit card debt is at 18%. And
Hmm.
then you're sold this idea that you can just make a minimum payment. You're going to be paying those loans back for 20 years, like
Hmm.
bad debt. If it can help you get ahead, go for it. Make sure you can pay it. If you can't pay the loans, get yourself a side gig so you can pay it. Do not take on debt unless you can pay it back. Why? Because probably one of the most critical rules to understand when you're playing with money is your credit score is king. It determines everything and the cost of money on every other loan you're going to take for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
So, if you don't pay your loans back on time, your credit score goes down. The higher the credit score, the better.
Right. And you talked before about like conglomerates and money being piled into a few pockets. I when I tend to think about debt, I just think about trying to pay it off early because otherwise I'm just giving the bankers more money at the
Yeah,
end of the day. And I
yeah.
don't necessarily always want to make them rich. I'd rather make me rich.
Right. I actually love, like, you can probably expand on this example. I love the way that you handle dealing with a car. So, what I tell my students on the car, I won't tell your story, you can, but what I tell my students on a car all the time is the first car is probably going to require you to take out some type of loan. And that's not bad because when you're coming out of school, you don't have a credit score yet.
Hmm.
You're trying to establish a credit score. So someday you can get a house, or someday you can take out a loan for whatever your goal is, and you've got a high credit score. So banks will lend you money at a cheaper rate. Like,
Hmm.
that's the game you're playing. What I tell students is go ahead and take that first loan, make sure you can make the payment. And then once you pay off that car, don't use that money for anything else. Go open a bank account that's called auto, car, whatever,
Mhm.
and take that payment that you were making for a car loan and put it in that bank account. And then when you need new tires, you pull it out of the car fund, or when you need an oil change, you pull it out of the car fund. And then next time you want to buy a car, you have money in a car fund to help you pay for that. So taking out that first loan, as long as you can pay it off, helps you establish credit. That's a good loan,
Yeah.
right? And once you establish credit, protect that with everything you can. You're always going to want a car.
Mhm.
So I always recommend, in addition to that emergency fund, just start a car fund for yourself and have it be based on the amount of money that you lived without while you were making your car loan. You lived without it, so you proved you can. So
Right.
without it.
It's a game of means, like living
Yeah.
with your means. All right, so my next question, we kind of talked a little bit about paying off versus saving versus investing, all that. So if I had bad debt, what would your recommendation be? Should I pay that off first, or should I worry about investing money?
So generally, my rule for everyone or suggestion for everyone is pay yourself first, right? So generally, my suggestion is always leave a little bit and set a little bit aside for savings. The one exception is if you have high interest rate loans or credit cards outstanding. If you have anything that's above 10%, pay that off as fast as you can. The reasons you want to do that is because you can more quickly free up cash flow that then you can save faster.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be protecting that credit score that we talked about previously. So, like, look at interest rates, and like for me, the barometer is 10%. If it's above 10%, get rid of it as fast as you possibly can. Like, take on extra hours if you need to, do whatever you have to do, change what you're eating, find the budget dollar somehow
Right.
to make sure that you can pay that debt off quick. And then always go for loans that are well below 10%. Right now, the interest rate market is a little weird, so they might be a little bit higher, but higher up towards the 10%
Mm-hmm.
range, but don't get yourself in over that unless something changes drastically in our economy. The one exception I would make to that rule is if you work for an employer who offers you a 401k,
Mm-hmm.
always accept the 401k and put in as much as they will match.
Mm-hmm.
So a 401k is a retirement plan. If your employer is willing to put money aside for your retirement plan, they often say for every dollar we put in, you have to put in $1. Or for every dollar you put in, we'll put in 50 cents, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it takes to maximize the money that your employer will give you, that's first. Do your 401k first, then pay off all your high interest rate loans with everything else that you have
Okay.
available to you after you pay all your other required expenses.
Because that is essentially free money that they are putting into your own investments, right?
Correct. And a 401k is set up for your retirement. You can't get it early without paying penalties. Never take a loan on your 401k. Just don't do it. But you are saving for the future. And like one thing young people don't realize is like time is in your favor. The longer you can leave retirement money sitting there, the more money it will accumulate that you never have to work for.
Mhm.
You just get paid because you agreed to leave your money there and you agreed to take care of yourself in retirement and aren't fully dependent upon other programs like Social Security or Medicare or those types of things. So you get paid because you've agreed to take care of your own retirement. You'll still get Social Security, but it's you're going to live and take responsibility for your future. So the world says, great, we'll help you get there. And that's what the 401k is. It's free money. If you leave it sitting there, then for every dollar you make up to whatever percentage, if the employer is going to give you 50 cents, that's a 50% return that you don't have to do more work for.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
So for 401k first, pay off all debt that's greater than 10% as fast as you can.
Mhm.
And then you can start to construct what your wants and your dreams look like and save and invest to meet those requirements.
Okay, that's a really good a really good way to look at it. I've heard some people say like, well, I have, for instance, a mortgage at 6%, and I can expect historically to make somewhere around 7 to 8% in the stock market. Makes more sense to, like, if I have any discretionary money, put that towards the stock and then pay the house off on its regular schedule. Would you recommend that?
So it's funny. One of the things that we didn't talk about earlier is, and I always recommend it to every student I talk to, is start by taking a look at your money personality. So T, I'll send you a link to the money personality. You can include the link if you want. What the money profile or money personality is going to tell you is, how do you exist in the world? What's your relationship with money?
Mhm.
Are you somebody who likes to spend money and you're miserable if you can't? Are you somebody who likes to save and you're miserable if you have to spend? Are you somewhere in between, right? So
Oh, you
I'm
have to take the test. I got it.
Right. So I'm a saver, Brad's a spender, right? So as a couple, we need to negotiate what that's like in order to fulfill our needs and our wants and not fight about money. Like, there's no reason to fight about money. Money is an inanimate object that allows you to live the life you want, and you should use it to your best advantage.
Mhm.
So your question was 6% interest rate on my debt, my mortgage, 7% interest return
Mhm.
on my investments. What should I do? I think it depends on money personality, right? So if you're somebody that's miserable having payments that you have to make, you probably want to spend your money towards paying off your house first. You're going to identify that as financial freedom. And as long as
Later,
you're
once it's paid off, you mean?
once it's paid off, you're done. And you never have to pay it again. And that's probably going to be your largest expense anyway, but there's ways to deal with that too. If you're someone who likes to see your investments grow, right? If you're somebody who likes to take a little money out of your investments to be able to spend and have a few nice things that you identify as giving meaning to your life, whether that's a vacation or a new car, or you throw a pool in the backyard, whatever your dreams are, right? Then maybe you're saving first. On a pure mathematical model, obviously earning 7% means that you're going to earn more than what you're going to have to pay. You'll have more in the end if you just do your scheduled mortgage payments and you put money in the stock market. That's just math. But there's more than math when we talk about this, like understanding that personality profile and what your long-term goals are. I recommend most people go into retirement without having a mortgage. But not everybody recommends that. Like, a mortgage is just a cash flow payment. And if you can make enough on your investments, or you've made enough already that you can afford that cash flow payment, who cares? You just look at it as an expensive living. So there's no right answer to that one. That one's inside of each of us. And where do you want to take risk? And how do you sleep well at night? And then if you're part of a couple, make sure you're on the same page is my only recommendation. But pure math says throw it into investment. It's not.
Okay, no, that's helpful. And then the same would be true of a car payment and anything for anybody watching who may not have a mortgage. But I'm glad that you put some nuance into that answer, because I know that I'm not a spender, and I don't want to say hard-headed about it, because like if I was with Erin and we had a discussion, she wanted to spend money, of course, like do whatever's going to make you happy as long as it's within a certain bound. But I tend to be a little bit kind of narrow-minded in terms of my own spending. So over time have learned that other people just operate differently, and that's perfectly fine as long as they're taking care of themselves and their family. Like you said, who cares? So thank you for inserting a little bit of nuance into that statement. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so next question is, if I wanted to save or invest, you kind of talked about ratios before, but if I want to save or invest, how do I figure out what percent of my income should be set aside?
Yeah, so generally the rule that I like to go with is a 50-30-20, and think in terms of needs, wants, goals, right? So 50-30-20, and break it out that way and get real with yourself about what your needs, wants, and goals are. People sit in and don't talk about money because, one, it's hard. Two, they feel like once they put it on paper that those are the rules they have to live with. Like, this is your money. There are no rules, right? The biggest rule is just make sure you can afford the lifestyle that you've chosen to live. So like I look at those percentages, and my point of saying that is those percentages are general guidelines.
Mhm.
There's rules within that too, right? So a car payment should never be more than 10% of the income that you're making at a time. Unless you don't have a lot of other expenses and you choose to do something different. Just make sure you can pay off all your other debt and
Right.
you can pay for your lifestyle, right? Within the 50% of needs, most people put housing. Housing should never, your mortgage payment should never be more than 20% of the income that you're bringing home, your gross income on a regular basis. Unless you have a large down payment and you're trying to pay off that house faster, right? And so there's nuances in all of it. But generally, 50% to take care of living life, 30% so you can be happy in life, and
Mhm.
20% looking towards the future. And then figure it out from there. I have a girlfriend that uses an envelope system. She's not overly complicated. She uses an envelope system. Meme used to use an envelope system. When the check comes in, it gets divided into the envelopes, and one of those envelopes was fun money.
Mhm.
And when the envelope is empty, you're done having fun. You're eating all your meals at home. You're not going to the casino. You're not, I'm using Meme as an example,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
not doing the other entertainment things. I have a girlfriend that still lives that way. So that's not how I generally live it. How I generally live it is I do break my budget into an account that handles all of our needs,
Right.
account that handles our short-term wants, and then we have goals. And our investment money goes towards our goals. So for me right now, the goal is retirement and making
Mhm.
sure I have enough to then live the lifestyle I want in retirement. That all sits in investment money. And money for me is really personal. I'm a saver, right? I hate spending it. You have to pry those pennies out of my hand unless it's for one of my kids or um, a vacation. I splurge on vacations too.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, I chose all my investments were going to go be handled by a broker that I got really comfortable with. I chose to open an account and decide that I couldn't watch the gains and losses in
Yeah.
those goals. So I went with a broker.
Because it was
My,
going to be too emotional for you.
it
Like,
does.
I am also like an emotional, reactive kind of person. So I try to do the set and forget as much as possible.
Yeah, like, and I'm getting closer to retirement. For you, you've got time on your side, but like anytime the stock market tanks, like
Mhm.
some word comes out like tariff and the stock market tanks, and I'm like, son of a gun, just don't look, right? Because it's going to recover. There are strategies like get more in cash, get less in risk, like, but a broker helps you talk through those things. For people who are just starting out, brokerage accounts are fairly inexpensive, and there are some that are free that you can use to start getting involved in investing. And I think you're even better and more experienced to talk about things like Robinhood and how to use some of that stuff. But my point of it was even when I do the 50% needs, 30% wants, I can spend it short term, 20% goal thought process.
Mhm.
I keep that money in separate accounts. 50% I'm going to throw in my checking account. I'm going to pay those bills right away. 30% is going to go into a savings account. Actually, I throw it in a money market account.
Mhm.
So it's a savings that earns interest, but it has a checking component to it so I can pull it out. And it has a debit card so I can pull it out. And then 20% I can't touch because I throw it with a broker and I can't touch it without talking to the broker and then explaining why I need my money. So that's kind of how I do some accountability things.
I tend to have to do the same thing. I like it's funny money because it's like, oh, if I don't spend it out of this account, then it doesn't count. Like
Right.
it's a little weird, but like I like to categorize like that. So the way that we operate, if this is helpful to anybody, Erin makes somewhere around 50%. So if we're using these same ratios, her income can cover our expenses minus the mortgage, and then mine goes into, so hers goes into a checking account, mine goes into the high yield savings account, and then if we need to move any money out of that savings account, we can do that within the bank. But that means that all the money that we're not utilizing actively is incurring interest or accruing interest. And then when we're not really thinking about wants versus needs and all that necessarily all the time, because I think that would get stressful to think about every single day. But we know that we've let our money do what it's done. We know that Our expenses are all paid for, so we just make the choice in the moment. Is this something that we want or need when there's something that comes up? But we're not, neither of us are really huge spenders, but it does make it a lot simpler for me to wrap my head around when it's just two or maybe three accounts and that's it.
Yeah. I have a little clue too for people who are spenders. So if you know you're naturally a spender, the recommendation is anything that you think you need in the moment, if it doesn't meet your basic house, clothing, food requirements,
Mhm.
um, give it 24 hours. Like, I
Mhm.
really want that sparkly jean jacket. This really
Mhm.
happened to me in Nashville recently. I really want that sparkly jean jacket. And it's going to cost me $100. And $100 is never going to break my bank. I got $100 to spend as part of my budgeting for my allowance, right? Brad and I have an allowance system.
Mhm.
I've got that money, but do I really need the sparkly jean jacket? And it's like, walk away for 24 hours, think about it, because in the moment, the emotions are triggering and I deserve it and I work hard and I really want it. And so I should get it and I'm never coming back here and it will be a memory. And then you walk away and you're like, how often will I really wear the sparkly jean jacket? In the
Yeah.
end, I bought it, but I waited
Sure.
24 hours to decide and went through all the reasons why. And I chose some other things that I saw not to buy because I wanted the sparkly jean jacket.
Yeah, at least at that point you're weighing options and you're making an informed decision, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so wait the 24 hours and decide. And then if you want it, get it. And if you do, and if it's within your budget, right? Like, be responsible for it. Be responsible for yourself.
Right. That's good. I
You
like that.
you talked a
Um,
minute ago about like the stress of maintaining all of the buckets. And one thing that I think is something we overlook is, for a lot of people, money is a stress thing. Like, you got to figure out ways to make it fun too, right? So there needs to be a reward system in there somewhere. Like, once your savings gets to X amount, you get to go buy yourself a whatever the thing is, right? There needs to be a reward system. But I also love like creating that dream board. I think like every decision we make every day creates the journey of our lives. And when we get to my age or older and you look back and you think, did I live my life purposefully doing all the things I wanted, or did I just spend time and did I just spend money? And it's not about regrets or no regrets. It's a realization of, did I do this the way I wanted to do this, right? Like, every day, every decision helps determine that. So for me, if you can spend a minute, I like to do it on January 1st. Here's my dream board based on what I know. This is what I want to do in the next year. This is what I want 20 years from now. And I kind of create, and everything else will happen in between. And every January, go back through, like, did any of this change? And if it changed, it was my decision anyway,
yeah.
right? And am I still living the purpose that I wanted to live? It took me a lot of years to get to that. So I offer that as a for what it's worth. Make it fun, like, really dream about what you want to live like. So I had a brother-in-law once tell me the mistake most young people make, and I was one of them, is they forget that the only reason to go to work is so you don't have to work someday and can still take care of yourself. Right? The only reason to go to work is to be able to live in this society where you can have the things you need and want and create the lifestyle you want. So do the grind early, do the grind often, but don't lose sight of the ultimate goal, because someday you don't want to work, you just want to enjoy life and spend your time on the things that bring you joy. For some people, work brings them joy. They'll keep working, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I like thinking about it in terms of, what's the end game again? What are my goals? What's that dream look like? And how do you get there?
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I think that's, you need a vision, right? You need like a purpose. For me, it's like spending more time with family. I would love to be able to jump more into projects like this or writing or whatever. It's going to look different for everybody. And I think there is a sense of purpose as well in work that people might kind of get from that. So I don't know that I would say that everything comes back down to money, but if you're doing purposeful work, you still need to be able to pay your bills. You still need to be able to take care of the people you need to take care of. So it's absolutely important to keep that in mind. And if vision boarding at the beginning of the year is what helps you do that, absolutely go for it, right?
Yeah.
So my last question, if you were 18 years old right now, and I think about this, probably too much ruminate on it, but if you were 18 years old right now and you were about to graduate high school, you were working a minimum wage part-time job, there are obviously thousands of different routes to financial wellness in front of you. But knowing what you know now and having the tools available that you have now, what would you do in terms of making financial moves to kind of set yourself up for the future?
So I'd spent some time learning the rules to the game early. It took me a little while to understand that, which the rule to the game is just simply spend less than you make.
Mm,
And then anything that you want, you can have. You just have to go earn it, right?
mm,
Get yourself in credit card debt. Um, I'd also make sure that I was really comfortable talking about money. So I was in a relationship where money was a stressor. It was difficult to talk about, and bad decisions were made as a result of that. So as a young person, just go learn about money, like make it fun. I recommend to my students that they read two frames of reference. So I love the book Rich Dad Poor Dad.
mhm,
It's about the author was raised in a family, and he had a close family friend, and it talks about kind of his journey as he learned financial lessons from one, a highly educated man who he called Poor Dad, and one, a construction worker who understood the financial markets and he called Rich Dad. And he gives you lessons in things you can do with money. I don't love everything about the book. The book has very black and white rules. So I like to balance that against the theories of Warren Buffett, who basically says, create boundaries. It's not all about money at the end of the day, but you're responsible, right? Warren Buffett still lives in the house that he always lived in, even though he was a billionaire by the time he chose to kind of retire. But he didn't need a house. He needed a
mhm,
home, right? And so he chose to do other things. He then, a few years ago, got together the wealthiest people in the world and said, we have all this money, let's give back to the world. So let's agree we're giving money back. Somewhere between those two theories is where the rest of us lie, right? We're somewhere between it's all about money and it's all about raising money to give it away. Some of us just want to live a normal lifestyle and we don't want to be billionaires. We just want to be able to take care of ourselves.
mhm.
So I recommend you figure out as a young person, like where you are from a money profile standpoint. Learn the rules. Do not be afraid of money. Talk about money, learn about investing. Don't stress yourself out. Start small and just remember the one big rule is you have to spend less than what you earn. Debt is not bad as long as you can pay it back. And actually, debt sometimes is good if it helps you achieve your goals, as long as you can cash flow pay it back.
Yeah. Well, I
I
think
don't know if that was one thing, but whatever.
no, I think that's a really good summation of kind of everything we've talked about so far. Something you said, money at the end of the day, that's not necessarily what it's all about. That's what this conversation is about. And I know a lot of people think about it. And like we said, a lot of people stress over it. But at the end of the day, money is supposed to be a tool that works in your benefit. I think I didn't ask enough questions I have, a wealth of knowledge when it comes to finances for a mom. I didn't ask enough questions when I was younger. It took me till I was on my own, making my own money to really start thinking about it. I do wish that I had just taken more of that responsibility on myself earlier. And to your credit, you did a lot to teach us about it, just from the day-to-day life perspective. But I wish that there was some sort of formal education in school to talk less about the this plus this equals this, and more about, all right, well, if this is what you want, how do you go and get that thing, and more like lifestyle related education content. I think that would go a long way in helping people sort through, because it's very confusing, and I feel like finance is sometimes made to be confusing, and there's too many options out there. So I would say to people, just simplify, do something that's going to make you feel good about why you're there. Don't expect to know it all at 18. I had a very winding road to end up where I'm at now, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I still don't know where I'm going to end up, but as long as you're well suited, and you put yourself in a good position to take opportunities when they come, meaning in this case, don't spend too much money so that when there is the car that you want later in life, you can buy it, or any number of different examples that we could give. But just don't think about it, but don't think about it so much that it's debilitating, because at the end of the day, some people are just trying to collect as much money as possible and not know that it's there for you to spend it. It's there for you to enjoy it, right? What else is the purpose of a tool if you're not going to use that tool? So, well, listen, I appreciate everything that you've talked to us about. I appreciate everything that you told us. Some enlightening things for me, and I have been talking to you about this stuff for like the better part of 15 years now. So, yeah, it was a really good conversation. If anybody's got questions, I would love to bring Mom back at some point and talk a little bit more. So please leave them in the comments. And I'd love to know more about the advice that our viewers have gotten, any financial advice that we think could help the community. So please put those in the comments as well. But again, Ma, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before you go?
No, this was fun. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. We will see you on the channel soon enough. Thanks,
All right,
everyone.
take care.